Yo, so one of the most desired and fun to play DPS characters from the 5-star standard banner in Wuthering Waves is this man right here, Calcharo, aka Sephiroth. So let's go ahead and build this guy so that we can have a very powerful and competitive Calcharo. Alright, so let's take a look at some echoes that we could be using on our Calcharo, and I think it goes without saying that the Void Thunder set here is the one you are going to want to go for. This Sonata effect that you see here on the left. Obviously, the electro damage bonus is great, and upon using a heavy attack or resonance skill, your electro damage is increased as well. You could technically run the attack set, but I would not go for this. It's not his better set. And if you are going to go for this set, you use the Mech Abomination, deals electro damage to enemies nearby and creates mech waste that explodes in a while and increases the current character's attack. However, I do not recommend going for this unless maybe someday down the line when we all have god tier, echo rolls and you just so happen to pull Calcharo like way down the line in the game's lifespan, maybe consider running this set. However, you definitely want to be trying to use the Void Thunder set. This is the ideal set to use on him. And if you are going to be using this set, you want to use the Thundering Mephis as your main echo. This is a 6-piece combo. Some people don't like that it's a 6-piece combo because you really want all of it to land for him to be able to maximize his potential. And so because of that, some people have considered using the Tempest Mephis. It's only a 2-piece combo, but it simply is not as good as using the Thundering Mephis. And you are going to have to learn how to use the character at some point, right? So you might as well just start farming for this Thundering Mephis set because it's his best set. And you could also use this set on Yinlin as well. This is her best set, and this is her best main echo as well. While you are farming one, you could be also farming the other. This is what you're going to want to do for basically every Electro character right now. Obviously, there's a bit of nuance to that. There might be a little bit of, give or take with that on some characters, but with Yinlin and Calcharo, that is definitely what you're going to want to do. And with this particular setup, you might as well learn how to use it properly. Obviously, you want to skill into this 6-piece combo, and then you want to go into your Resonance Liberation, and you want to maximize his damage that way. So you might as well learn potentially how to get those parries off. That way you get an opportunity while the enemy is stun locked, and you can deal that 6-piece combo then because you have that opportunity to do it if you felt so inclined. You can do it in between the enemy's attacks and stuff like that too, but if you wanted to feel more safe, get that parry and then pop off, queen. Now, as far as these 3-cost echoes are concerned, you only have 2 options, and that's the Violet Feathered Heron and the Flautist. And unfortunately, these guys do not drop very often. I just want to give you guys an example here. We earlier farmed my world, my other friend's world, and another friend's world. 3 worlds completely farmed out until they were completely all gone. We eradicated all of them. Each of us only got 1 Violet Feathered Heron drop each. Only 1 after 3 worlds. And neither one of us ended up getting a good drop off of it. This Violet Feathered Heron you see comes from a completely different day when we did the exact same thing. 1 drop in 3 worlds is insane. That is really, really low odds. Now, you can go ahead and use this event right here. In case you guys didn't know, obviously this Depths of Elusive Realms. One of the rewards you can get from this are moldable echoes. And so you can get the Violet Feathered Heron from that, or you can also get the Flautist, but you can only get 1 each. It's guaranteed to give you fusion damage, but unfortunately, your substat rolls might end up not dropping very well for you. So that is an option that you can use in case you had no other options right now as a placeholder until you get potentially something better. Like you see, this Heron right here is actually not bad. It's got a crit rate stat and a crit damage stat, attack percent. That's not terrible. I'm happy about this one for right now. Obviously this Flautist is booty cheeks, and we'll have to improve this Flautist one day down the line. I'm still farming out the Flautist. It's been the bane of my existence for a long time. And obviously, with these 1-star or these 1-cost drops, there's a lot of different options that you can use. Just make sure that you're getting the Void Thunder bonus from this Sonata effect from them. Now let's go over some main stats and then some substats after that. As far as your main echo is concerned, your cost for echo, you're going to either want to go for crit rate or crit damage, depending on potentially what weapon you are using or what substat rolls that you got. Obviously, you're not going to be critting unless your crit rate is really, really high. So definitely probably go for the crit rate if you have nothing else to go for, But if you have a really, really high crit rate weapon and you have some good crit rate substats, then you might want to go for a crit damage piece. Like, let's go ahead and use an example. Like this one right here is a crit damage piece that you could use instead. But unless you have a weapon, like for example, my Calcharo currently is using Gion's weapon because they have a Gion, and it gives crit damage. So I'm going to want to use a crit rate piece for my Calcharo to make up for that so that I can get my crits. Your crit damage does not matter if you're not critting at all. So you definitely want to keep that kind of stuff in mind with your main stat there. Now, as far as these 3 cost echoes go, for literally both of them, you're going to want electro damage bonus, and again, electro damage bonus. And as far as these 1 cost echoes are concerned, you're going to want attack percent, and again, you're going to want attack percent. In the early stages, using an HP piece as a placeholder is probably okay because you might struggle a little bit with some of the early game content, potentially, but the early game is really not that bad, and let's be honest, that's what your healer is for, right? So go with attack percent and attack percent for those 1 cost pieces. Now, as far as the substats are concerned, you're going to want to go with crit rate and crit damage. You're going to want to go with resonance liberation damage percent. You're also going to want to go with your resonance skill damage percent if you can get that. Attack percent is also a very, very great option. Those are the ones that I would be trying to go for. Heavy attack damage bonus, if you get it, cool, whatever. But those are the main ones that I would be trying to go for if I was you. Let's be real, most people are not going to get the perfect god roll right off of the bat. So if you end up with a little defense or HP here or there, it's not going to be the end of the world. Crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, resonance liberation damage, resonance skill damage. These are all very, very good stats for your substat rolls. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the weapon options that we have for Calcharo. Yeah, it's a little bit early in the game's lifespan, and so there's not exactly an abundance of really, really great options. However, there are some really, really solid options for him, and some of them, technically, every single player can get a hold of, and I'll explain how that works in just a moment here. Let's go ahead and look at some of the options that I have in this menu just as a visual representation. So a good 4-star option that we have for a Calcharo is this Helios Cleaver. This gives him an attack flat stat and an attack percent stat, which is pretty solid. In fact, his best in-slot option technically has these same stats. It's just they're a little bit lower than the stats you would get on the 5-star option. This is a 4-star option. And the effect is within 12 seconds after Resonance Skill is cast, it increases attack by 3% every 2 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. This effect can be triggered 1 time every 12 seconds. When the number of stacks reaches 4, all stacks will be reset within 6 seconds. This is a really solid option because it gives you, this effect here, but it gives you these attack stats right here. Unfortunately, a lot of the broadswords in the game right now have like either energy regen or like defense percent, and they're not his ideal stats to be able to have. So unfortunately, as a 4-star option, Helios Cleaver is pretty much the one you have as an option, and you have to kind of get lucky on a banner or something like that, pulling it randomly, unless you happen to pick up a weapon pack of some kind that you could choose the weapon from that pack, and a Helios Cleaver is sometimes that option. Now, the Broadblade of Night is a 3-star option that you can use. I don't recommend using this long term. This is just a stepping stone until you can get something better. I always want to give at least like 1 or 2 3-star options whenever possible. So this has an flat attack stat and attack percent stat as well. So definitely a viable option for him. When the intro skill is cast, it increases attack by 8%, lasting for 10 seconds. So a solid 3-star option, again, just a stepping stone until you get something better. Maybe something like this. This is Gion's weapon. It gives you a really, really high flat attack stat. It gives you some really, really solid crit damage. Obviously, I've leveled this, so obviously it's going to be way higher than the other options that you saw. It increases the damage bonus by 12% every time intro skill or resonance liberation is cast, and increases the heavy attack damage by 24%, stacking up to 2 times. This effect lasts for 14 seconds. So there were some localization issues with this weapon originally, and so it caused some people to think that this was way better for him than it really was, but it's still, at the very least, his second best option. And if you are building for crit stats one day down the line, I know the early stages of the game, it's a bit hard to go for, but his crit damage stat here is super duper good. This is a really, really good weapon if you are building for crit at some point in this game's lifespan, which I'm currently building for on him right now. So because of this crit stat that I get from the crit damage, I'm obviously going to be building him for heavy crit rate. So I wanted to tell you guys about that. It is a good option. Despite the localization issues, it's still his second best option. And obviously it makes it really easy to build him for crit because you get that crit stat. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another couple of options for him that everybody can technically get their hands on. Oh, right here. It's in the Pioneer podcast. Unfortunately, this is a paid weapon because it is attached to the Battle Pass. If you buy the $10 Battle Pass that lasts for the entire length of the patch, you do get a weapon box from it. It provides a Golden Eternal Series weapon of your choice. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that option would be as far as Calcharo is concerned. It is right here, the Autumn Trace. This is the broadsword that could come out of that pack. It has a crit rate substat, very solid, and it also has a flat attack stat, also very solid. It increases the attack by 4% upon dealing basic attack damage or heavy attack damage, stacking up to 5 times. This effect lasts for 7 seconds and can be triggered 1 time every 1 second. Obviously, if you don't have enough crit rate, your crit damage doesn't really matter a whole lot, which makes this a very, very solid option for him at the 4-star level. Now, there is one other option, technically his best in slot, and technically every single player can get this weapon if they felt so inclined. It comes, unfortunately, from the Union level 45 supply box. Right here, a 5-star weapon supply box, and it has the Lustrous Razor. This is technically his best in slot option right now. It has a very, very high flat attack stat and a very, very high percentage of attack. It's the attack percent stat. So very, very good option for him, is best in slot right now. Technically, it doesn't give you any crit value. So if you are building for crit, you're going to have to rely entirely on your echoes and things like that. But still, this is an incredibly strong option for him. Many players are going to want to end up using this if they don't have any other options. Now, as far as team compositions are concerned for Calcharo, obviously a lot of us have been talking about this. Yinlin is an incredibly great support character for Calcharo. She directly buffs electro damage, and both of them are electro units. This combination of characters right here, these two on the same team, might be the most potent combo, the most potent duo in the entire game right now. Obviously, Jian has the highest personal damage potential with his signature weapon and only with his signature weapon, but as far as a team composition setup is concerned, this might be like the best duo in the entire game as it stands right now. Now, Yinlin is she can be run as a support character for Calcharo, more of a supportive role with high energy regeneration rate and, you know what I mean, some hot swapping capabilities. However, speaking of hot, I mean, Jesus Christ, have you looked at her? But I would build her for damage. You can pretty much run the same gear that you could run on Calcharo and run it on Yinlin as well. And this is the way, in my opinion, you should run her. Build her for damage. She has really, really good damaging capabilities. She can technically even be run as the main DPS on a team. She's actually that strong. And obviously, she's not going to have as high of a damage potential as Calcharo on this particular team setup. She is a sub DPS on this team, but definitely build her for damage in my opinion, and that's going to be the best way to run this team comp. And as far as sustainability is concerned, obviously Verena has buffs, and she's the most reliable healer in the game as it stands right now, so she's going to basically be the best character on all 3 of these teams that I'm going to show you. Now, I showed you Genshin here instead of Verena just to show you that there are other options, like you have Genshin if you don't have Verena, for example, or you obviously have a character like Baizha right here on the bottom left. Baizha is a very, very good healer in this game. I do really, really like this character. Definitely run her if you got her on at least one of your 3 teams. Very, very, very solid character. Now, let's go ahead and point out that Yanwu is a good support behind Calcharo as well. He's a good character to run on this particular team comp too. He's kind of like a hybrid style character. Very, very solid. Both of them are electro characters as well. And as far as this team composition is concerned, Mortefi is a very, very good hybrid character as well to run with Calcharo. Very, very solid unit. I do love this guy. I finally pulled him. I hadn't pulled him in a long time. Finally got him. Super duper stoked about it. This is definitely a viable team composition. So let me know if you're going to be building Calcharo, what team compositions you're planning for this guy, and let me know if you like this guy who looks literally exactly like Sephiroth and has the same Japanese voice actor as the real Sephiroth from Final Fantasy XIV. Clearly, this design choice was done on purpose. Anyways, if you found any of this helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form, consider leaving a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.